Welcome everyone to the SGMP Florida Capital Chapter March 2024 meeting. We are so happy you're here. Our speaker is going to start shortly. I did want to very quickly say welcome. I'm so happy you're here. We know we have people at a distance right now, and we also have people who are going to be watching this later. And this is ethical issues in meeting planning is the topic tonight. So there will be CEUs awarded, and we do have a pretty good following after. But some big news that's happening with our chapter is it was made official that the Central Florida chapter is now part of us. They are officially a satellite chapter of SGMP Florida Capital Chapter. So we now serve the entire state of Florida. So let's welcome them, because I know that they are watching, and we're just so happy to have them with us. And I'm happy to have all of you. So does anyone have anything to share before we jump right into our speaker? Yeah, first door on the left. I'll tell you what, let's do some quick introductions, and let's start with our board members. So let's go with our vice president first.
Dr. Patty Ball Thomas.
Tell us about you.
Welcome to everyone. I am a professor at Florida A&M University and a director of teacher education induction for the College of Education. I have been at Florida A&M University for a couple of decades. Prior to that, I worked in state government in the Department of Education, where I was head of all programs that provided services to children in public schools birth through age 7. I have been an educator for a number of years. I've also been a member of SGMP here in Tallahassee for a number of years. When I started working in the Florida Department of Education, I won't give you the years, but quite way back, I joined SGMP. So I have kind of gone and come back, and so I'm now back and active and excited about being here. And I welcome all who are visiting with us today and who will be viewing this PowerPoint presentation at a later date. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Let's go with our immediate past president.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Hall. I immediate past president, and I work for the Florida State Court System. Among other duties, I deal with planning and organizing events and overseeing all contracts.
Excellent. Let's go with our secretary.
Good evening. My name is Latrell Hardwick. I'm the secretary of the Florida Capital Chapter of SGMP. I am self-employed as a public adjuster, and I am working toward getting my what is the certification?
SGMP?
Yes, CGMP.
Excellent. That's great.
Yeah.
Very good. Tammy. Unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Tammy Elliott. I work over at Florida State University, not on the main campus though. I work for the Florida Virtual Campus. I am a senior administrative assistant and event planner.
Wonderful. We're so happy you're here. And Tammy's been great. She's actually going to be helping me with some things. And as soon as you come online, you can say hello. But we have other people who just walked in the door. And actually, I do want to say, I'm just going to turn the computer like this right now so you can see Dr. Moran is here. Dr. Moran not only brought us tonight's speaker, but you all know the contributions he has made to our chapter through the years. He was just awarded a legacy award by SGMP National. So let's give him a round of applause. And we're so thankful that he's here with us and has been for a very long time. And he's somebody that we can always count on, even as he's running in the door. And so I would love for him to give a brief introduction to our speaker.
I will do that as soon as I get
connected. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't you use my computer while we're waiting to get connected?
Introduction.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. All right. Or I'll tell you what, you can start saying a little bit about yourself if you'll, yeah, there you go. and unmute yourself too.
There we go. Good evening, everyone.
And remember, we need to. All right, just sit tight. We are having some challenges here in the room, and Dr. Moran is working to pull up a bio, and he's going to introduce our speaker who is ready to go. And while he's doing that, and does anyone have anything else good for the order before we begin? Our vice president has agreed to host the April meeting and virtually, so I will be out of the country, and so that'll be a virtual only meeting in April.
Gabrielle, I do have one question. For the new chapter that's a part of this chapter now, which way did you all decide to go with them joining? I know we had talked about a couple of different ways the last time that we met.
Yeah.
And so what was the decision about that?
That is an excellent question, and we decided to go the same way that everybody voted to go, which is to have them as a satellite chapter, meaning that should they be able to get back on their feet, they can continue on and still have their own chapter.
Okay.
For now, they're just part of us. We have not merged. It's not Florida chapter. It's still Florida Capital chapter.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, otherwise we would have a new name, a new logo and everything else. We do cover the whole state of Florida now, though.
Okay.
All right, we're still, that's a good, any other questions while we're starting? So I'll just share with you, the next meeting is going to be Tuesday, April 16th, Tuesday, April 16th. All right, you are on, and so whenever you're ready, unmute yourself. And I will mute myself. It does say 29-24, but I was just ignoring it. It's okay.
Okay, let me,
Go ahead, come on, we're rolling. We are 10 minutes after.
understand. I'm trying to find the,
What do you know about this man you invited to speak? I know you can make it, I know you can say it on the fly.
okay. Oh! I gotta lock this chair.
All right, we.
Okay, I lock this chair. Oh, my God. All right, you sit on the edge. Well, I do it. Oh, I'll fall if I need to fall later on.
He
Okay.
hasn't even had a drink yet.
No. Okay.
So how do you know this gentleman?
Hold on, let me,
Come on, come on.
I'm trying to figure out why the, okay, meeting is being recorded. There we go. Ah, now you can see me. I'm gonna go ahead and,
We can't see you actually, but that's fine. And you're also
You can't see
muted.
me?
Nope. And you're muted.
I know I'm muted. I can see me.
We cannot see you.
I don't understand.
I can see you. I can see him.
Oh, I see you now. I see you now. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, now unmute yourself.
All right. Here we go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, give me great pleasure to introduce Attorney Keir Edwards, who is a participating attorney at the law firm of Carr Allison in Tallahassee, Florida's office. He is admitted to practice in Florida and focuses his practice on defending matters involving workers' compensation, medication, medical and medical devices, and government tort and public liability. Attorney Edwards graduated from Florida State University with a bachelor's in science a bachelor's in science, in political science and criminal justice and criminology. He served as a public defender before earning his Juris Doctorate from Florida Coastal School of Law. And while there, he was involved in the Mott, M-O-O-T Court Honor Board and president of the Mock, M-O-C-K trial team. He was also awarded the Phyllis Stansel Ethics and Professionalism Award in 2018 and the Florida Coastal School of Law Founders Award in that very same year, and the Pro Bono Award as well, where he provided over 500 hours of community service. Prior to participating or practicing, excuse me, in civil defense, Attorney Keir was an assistant state attorney in the Second Judicial Circuit, where he prosecuted misdemeanors and felony cases. Still to this day, in civil practice, he is known as an effective trial attorney. Keir is also a special agent with the Florida lotteries known as an effective, oh, excuse me, because I have this down extremely low. I can barely see what I'm reading. He is a special agent with the Florida Lotteries Division of Security and a member of the Future Leadership Board with his law firm to help mentor and equip young attorneys for success. Additionally, Keir is an active member of Omega Psi Phi fraternity in Tallahassee, a member of the Tallahassee Bar Association, and a member of the American Bar Association. He volunteers with local organizations and foundations to help his community at large. One part that I did not mention, that he also served as a police officer before earning his JD. So he enjoyed during his free time golfing, fishing, playing the piano. I'm gonna have to get him to work with me on that piano thing. Traveling and spending time with his wife, family, and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, our good friend, attorney Keir Edwards, those that know him and those who may not, hear he, him, attorney.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, the hand claps, all right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for having me. It's Gabrielle, Dr. Moran, and all from the perspective. I am honored to present to you all a very brief presentation on ethical issues regarding meeting planning. I see that I fast forwarded the date as 2924, but we're going to digress 900 years back to this present day of 2024. We shall proceed accordingly. So the goal of this presentation is to basically address the ethical issues in meeting planning, right? And to provide some methods of solving these ethical challenges that we will talk about and discuss today. I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of things that come to mind when we're talking about ethics and professionalism and integrity when it comes to dealing with others and meeting planning. Some of the areas we will cover, obviously, is, ethics. I want us to all be on the same page as to what is ethics. How does integrity and morality play into that? What is the main challenge when it comes to these particular issues and meeting planning? Diversity also comes into play. We'll talk about some of the common ethical dilemmas that I've come up with through research and personal experiences, and some of the theoretical approaches of how to solve and navigate through those particular dilemmas. We'll talk about bad ideas and how they can actually lead to positive solutions. Obviously, we'll do some methods of solving ethical challenges within a group or a team. I find that to be very instrumental in meeting planning. When we have our own groups, we have our own team, how do we navigate ethical issues or strategize amongst each other in a successful way? And another point will be, saying focus the workforce as a solution, and that goes into meeting with groups within our team and outside, trying to bring in.
We can't hear you, since Dr. Moran, kept turned off his mic. Could you turn on your mic now? Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Wait a minute. So I went through that whole spiel and y'all didn't hear me?
No, we did hear you up until the
Okay.
time Dr. Moran turned off his mic, because we were hearing you through his computer.
Yeah, I was trying to not do the echo thing. So, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right.
Huh?
So now that everyone can hear me, when it comes to integrity and ethics, what comes to mind when we say the word ethics or integrity?
Morals,
The
value,
right thing, the right and responsible.
yeah.
I hear morals, I hear doing the right, ethical, and responsible thing. Anybody else?
Following the rules.
Okay. And we're pretty much hitting on the same thing. Integrity is the soundness of moral principles and character, right? Shown by one's ability to deal with other people, right? And then ethics, the Greek term of ethics is, well, the root of it from Greek is ethos, which means the way of living, right? And Black Law Dictionary defines it as how one lives with others, right? The concepts and principles of proper human conduct socially is the collective universal values of treating other people. And so when we look at these, one of the things that we have in common with integrity and ethics, and someone said it earlier, was having moral principles. And these are just basically rules and laws that we as individuals or a group of individuals have derived to believe to what is the right thing to do when no one else is looking. And what is right and what is wrong is subjective, but collectively it can also be objective, right? Just because I value this particular way to be the right way doesn't mean it's the only way or the only right way to do things. And this is, tying into our next slide of how do we navigate through these issues, upholding our integrity and not violating our ethics. So meeting planning, right? Why do we do it? Right. And I think everyone can agree it's very simple. It's to have a productive meeting, right? To set up and prepare an agenda for a meeting or event or what have you. In a perfect world, in an ideal world, if we do this effectively, we can walk out of this room with a sound plan, objectives and goals for the year, semester, or however we navigate or we structure the particular meeting. But it doesn't always go that way because it presents us with challenges. And why do we have these challenges? Well, it's because let me see if I can. There we go. It's because we have to deal with people. And people can be aggravating sometimes. They can be annoying, difficult to work with. But people can also provide incredible insight and different perspectives, right? One of my favorite shows to kind of wind down after a long day is The Office. So that caption is one of the scenes where they were having a board meeting and everyone was pretty much tired of Michael. But anyway, this brings up a very beneficial asset, right, to meeting planning, and that's diversity. I think if we incorporate diversity, it will allow us to avoid some of the ethical misconducts, right? But it also presents its own ethical misconducts, right? If we don't know how to deal with others from different cultural, racial, gender, religious backgrounds, it can present its own challenges, but overall, I believe is very beneficial. So, if I can Is there a way to, give me 1 second
What you trying to
to minimize, there we go.
The writing is really small.
Yeah,
You're gonna have to
you
tell
can't
us,
read it.
like, we can't read them.
Oh, y'all can't read that? Okay. Well, that's not good.
There is a way of slightly fixing it.
Stand by, everyone.
So if we increase, go to your PowerPoint and increase this right here. Let's see if we can do this. Jump over to here. I don't know if we can. Nope, you can't. Yeah, it's just really, it's a small version of it, so,
All right,
sorry.
that's okay. I wonder if I can still do the, 1 second, everybody.
All right, that's better. I can see.
There we go. Is that better for everyone?
Oh, yes, we can read it.
Yes.
All right, well, it probably would help if I do the, that's okay. I have some animations, but we can
We can see the animations when you put through, or do you not have it in slide?
there, so it's not in presentation,
Ah.
but it's okay. We're fine.
Okay.
So, getting back to where this is, here we go. So diversity. Obviously, diversity is inclusive of different backgrounds, cultures, race, religion, and politics even, right? Languages, gender, and opinions. We can be of the same culture, race, and gender, but have diverse opinions. Diversity covers a multitude of perspectives, right? There are two stories that I love that highlights or pour neon, lack of a better phrase, on diversity. One is I learned some years back in law school in crim law. But basically, 1974, there was this mafia boss, and the FBI wanted to serve a search warrant on this boss. And the laws back then, as far as serving search warrants, they're slightly changed from today's world, right? Of how we can actually do something like that. But in any way, the mafia boss, to avert him being served subpoenas, basically surrounded himself with a slew of bodyguards. So no one would penetrate through these bodyguards to get to the mafia boss. And so there are all these brutes and all these men in this room, in FBI conference room, trying to figure out how to penetrate, these layers of security to serve this guy the subpoena, to get his butt to court, right? And then there's this little voice in the back that says, I have an idea. And I was like, what is your idea? Well, we all know that he has a daughter. His daughter's about to get married. I'll just sign up as a guest. No one will suspect me. And I'll walk in and give him, serve him his subpoena. Well, that little voice was a young lady. She was an FBI agent, and she looked nothing the part of what, we would see as FBI agents back in, the early 70s, early to mid 70s. And just like clockwork, she walks in, and who's at the front door greeting all the guests at the wedding? The mafia boss. And so he greets her, and she serves him with that good old subpoena, and, case is closed. There's also an experiment in 2013 where groups were separated with between being Democratic and Republicans, and they had to pretty much either choose to work together or work apart from each other. But at the end of the day, what they found out is we may have different beliefs, different systems, but when we have a common goal, God dang it, we can actually come together and achieve it. We can still have our own perspectives, but we're able to achieve the same goal. How do we do that? How are we able to do that? Well, we embrace diversity, right? The thing with the mafia boss is that diversity showed at that particular case, that particular moment, that you didn't have to use, brute force or man your way in to serve this particular subpoena. It was used with intellect, seductiveness, and what's the word I want to use? Basically, the young lady dressed herself up, became eye candy to the mafia boss, and was able to slide in without any issue. And if a team is more diverse, the decisions presented would typically, present itself to be tested, and it leaves room for more success. Obviously, these lessons don't just apply to women and male dominant teams, although effective. It's just not germane just to that particular area. I just wanted to use this particular story to highlight the effectiveness of diversity. So ethical dilemmas and theoretical approaches. Through experience and some research, I found these to be probably one of just a few of what I found to be the most important. We can go on for hours on ethical dilemmas and issues and how they relate to, meeting planning and just dealing with others as a whole. But one in particular is it's not timely communicating or responding to clients and partners. By falling behind on emails or text message, it's not against the law. You're not going to get arrested for it. You may get written up for it. But you don't have to respond to clients and partners as soon as they send you an email or something, but you run the risk of putting them in an uncomfortable position when you don't respond in a timely manner. Okay, so what I've seen is for small businesses, typically, and it also depends on the ask, the particular request or the inquiry within the email. Typically, 1 or 2 hours for a small business seems to be on average a timely response, right? Larger corporations, larger businesses, we're looking at, 1 to 2 business days. Okay. Anything outside of that, we're kind of teetering on, not really being timely. But again, that is also contingent on the ask. Okay. Sometimes I'll use a perfect example. I sent a medical request for a particular case. No, I have one even better for you. I sent court records for a particular case that's actually going up for an appeal. And it didn't take 1 hour, 2 hours, or even 2 days. It actually took approximately 27 days for a response. And the reason why is because it's over 6,000 pages worth of documents. So again, it's contingent upon the ask, right? But just be mindful of that and be timely. Don't put your community partners or your clients and who all we work with in an uncomfortable position. You don't want them asking, hey, did you get the email? When are you going to respond to it? And so the other is business trips for, event venues and different places where we may actually host an event or an engagement. So there are some times where we plan these business trips, but we have to use our own, credit cards or our own, business accounts. I mean, our own personal accounts for these particular transactions. Well, with that is associated with travel points a lot of times. Just because you scheduled this trip, months ago, doesn't mean that you get to snag a free vacation once you decided that, hey, I know we planned this trip in New York to go see this venue, but man, we went to Augusta, Georgia, and we saw this beautiful plantation, and this is where we want to have this particular event. Well, we still have the event in New York still on the books. It's not canceled yet. Well, what'd you know? My family wants to go to New York for spring break. Well, can I use, this expense has already been paid for, it's already been accounted for. Can I use that, to go ahead and still take advantage of the trip? Because, hey, I can still go to this venue. We may use that at a later time. I don't know. However clever you want to, to get, between the lines or find some loopholes, I would suggest to simply, even if nobody finds out, just contact your supervisor or be upfront with the financial decision makers at your company. They still may let you go anyway, but I would always caution or err on the side of caution. In this particular area, it's always better to get permission than to ask for forgiveness, because there are a lot of things within those transactions that can be miscued or misunderstood as something being fraudulent, and other ethical issues that can be brought up to not only subject you to, being fired, but having legal consequences. Then there are gifts. So I don't know how you may as individually present or receive gifts, but you may actually never have to present a gift, but gift bags are freaking awesome. You go to an event and they give you swag and it's like, oh yeah, I'm good. You may be one of those people that gets the bag and just kind of scoop everything off the table and put it in your bag and keep moving, okay? Gifts are fine, but you have to be mindful of what type of gifts are you getting and or receiving. And it's also contingent upon the actual event, right? So if I'm throwing, and I'm just using this as an example. If I'm throwing a birthday party and the birthday party was a success, and those who, help me plan, I provide them with $50 or $25 gift card for Starbucks. That's okay. Thank you for the gift. I appreciate that. But if I show up to your house 2 weeks after the event with a Lamborghini and park it in your driveway, that's not a gift, right? That's almost like bribing. What else is attached to this? Okay. My rule of thumb is, and I don't like to get political all the time in various presentations, but my rule of thumb is this: if your particular representative, or if your president, or if your congressman receives a gift from the public or anyone, depending on what that gift is, would you question it? And if you question it, then there's probably some ethical ramifications attached to it, okay? We're talking more than just, a $50 gift card. We're talking to, paid trips to Dubai, et cetera. Those things are, they create the furrowed brow. You see me sitting here thinking about it now, right? So, So basically, and I think I've addressed how to kind of approach this particular bullet point here as far as gifts, is that, just make sure that the gift is appropriate. It's not economically disproportionate to either the event or the profession that these particular individuals are in. Make sure and I'm not telling you to dive in and delve into like how much somebody works or what's the average pay of this particular person, but nothing elaborate or outside of what is deemed the average income level of that particular person. Like I said, if it's a birthday party, a gift card is perfectly fine, but a Lamborghini, come on, let's be honest, right?
No, Dr. Moran, I will not be giving you a Lamborghini. All right. And event contingent plans. I have found this with clients and colleagues to be a annoying issue. When events are being planned well in advance, especially annual events, there are some events that we actually have here in the Big Bend area where it's annual and without fail, it's going to rain. Okay. Without fail, I've been in Tallahassee for, wow, almost 2 decades now. There is a particular event within the Tallahassee area. It's going to rain. It has rained every single time I've went over my last 2 decades of being in Tallahassee. Okay. When we are conducting or planning or strategizing an event or, meeting planning, have this in mind. Okay. Because when those different groups or organizations, when they sign that contract, they may tell you they won't pay they don't care how much it costs. They don't care how much time will go into it. This is the venue. This is when we want it. This is where we want it. This is how we want it, right? Have some type of common sense is not common, but have some type of common sense approach to address the issue of there may be some weather conditions that you may not have thought of, and this could either postpone or delay the actual event. This could pose some ethical issues because you knew or should have known that something like this could have derived where the person would not be getting the product or the product that they contracted for. So just be mindful of something like that. Just because they're willing to pay for something doesn't mean it's a good idea. But when in doubt, do what's best for your guest. I believe your guest health and safety comes first of who's ever going to be involved in these particular venues during, so just have that in mind during the meeting planning. Then we have making promises that you can't keep. We all have been victim of it, I am sure. Just sometimes, being overly optimistic about your own abilities, it comes at a price. Okay. Know your limits. All right. And that price that comes with you being overly optimistic, typically your clients will have to suffer that particular endeavor, right? So don't be afraid to turn down your own work. Don't be afraid to say no. If this is something that, we're trying to plan, we're trying to meet for, and we just can't do it, it's outside of our realm, it's okay to say no, or go find an outside source that can help, carry out that particular objective. Just make sure you explain what you won't be able to do. And take the care to show that, that you, how do I say it? Being honest and being upfront, it almost guarantees you future business or opportunities with current and even future employees, because my great grandfather said something that has always stuck with me. One was, your name will go further than you ever will. And so people will talk. And it was like, he couldn't do this, but man, she really helped me with this part. So I'll use her next time for this or for that. And the other I was going to say for the last portion of this presentation is that, ladies and gentlemen, every day is a job interview. Okay. Every day, someone is assessing you, someone is analyzing you, someone is researching you. Okay. Either on paper, on the internet, or in their own cognitive mind. Right. So govern yourself accordingly. So ethics and professionalism and integrity, it doesn't, start and stop here with Society of Governors, meeting professionals. It doesn't stop or start here. It goes everywhere and everything that we do, right? There are some things that we do in our personal lives that we don't want it to be involved in our professional lives, but they do. It's called social media. That's one of the heavy conduits that we're dealing with, in some of the cases and now. But anyway, I digress. And the last point is not having a diverse team. I think we have gone over the importance of diversity and why that matters. So I'm not going to regurgitate all that information back over again. I just wanted to embellish and pour neon on the importance of diversity and the assets and the benefits that it brings. So those points that we discussed were geared towards dealing with individuals outside of our team, outside of our hub, outside of our group, or I like to call our wolf pack, right? Our family. We went across the street and had a meeting planning, with this other business or that other business. But this particular area, I like to, focus on just a little bit of how to, solve ethical challenges within our own group or our own team, because we still have to plan with each other. And then we'll plan to meet with somebody else, right? So one of the easiest ways to address these issues from the start is that, if you have a diverse team, you're going to have issues, okay? Typically, who your problem child is going to be. Typically, who the brainchild is going to be, the researcher, the annoying person, the lazy. You typically know who those particular people are going to be, okay? What I have done, even in my own profession and my personal experience, is I'll bring everyone together and I'll do what we call typically an icebreaker, okay, or a fellowship. What that allows us to do is to get to know each other, because we all have different perspectives, we have different experiences, we all have different walks of life, okay? I have a brother who is near and dear to my heart. Dr. Moran is familiar with the same person. I don't care if you plan something 2 years in advance, he is going to show up late, okay? And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. But we have had some sit-down talks, and we have learned through just discussing some things that growing up, his parents were not on time for everything, but when they showed up, everything seemed to work out okay. And so he developed a habit of, it doesn't matter if I'm on time or if I'm late, because it's all going to work out anyway. And so my response to him was, clearly, I'm still trying to have an open mind. My response to him was, try that at your job, and let's see how long that lasts. And he hasn't been written up yet, so I'm guessing that he's showing up on time. But anyway, so getting back on the icebreakers, fellowshipping and doing an icebreaker. Someone out there may have a question. What do I use as an icebreaker? Give me an example of what to use? Because there are some individuals who do not like to be involved in what I call forced cooperation, okay? And when we are in these particular settings where we're forced to share ideas and communicate with each other, just keep that particular person in mind. Maybe they're better off in the background handling something else. Maybe they're just not good with working with others, okay? But you have to have an open mind, and you have to force yourself to engage in these particular, activities, especially when it comes to meeting planning, when it comes to strategizing, getting events. You have to force yourself in these particular engagements, because if not, how are we going to get things done, right? So an example of one of the icebreakers would be like, what's on your bucket list? What's the next thing on your bucket list? What do you want to do within the next, three months or so? And you'll be surprised how many people have actual things on their bucket list. You may be surprised that those who you thought had a bucket list don't have one at all. But it forces conversation, it forces engagement, and it allows a platform for us to learn more about each other. Why does this matter, Keir? Why does this matter that we learn more about each other? It's because when certain issues come up, we know how to address them with that particular individual, okay? I have a coworker that I work with. He is a very frugal spender. He is probably very financially well off, but he is stingy. Okay. And how did I learn this? Well, we had an ice-breaking event. And my thing was, what's your favorite food? Okay. Something very simple. And there are three answers that really, make me scratch my head. I am a Southern boy from Polk County, Florida. Okay. And one of the things he said was, I like chili and rice. And it threw me for a loop because where I come from, we eat chili with cornbread. Okay. Not rice. And so further engagement showed that I learned that him growing up as a child, they didn't have much. And so to stretch out the food portions or the rations, they used rice. And so that chili with the rice, it stretched out over a couple of days instead of one night, with a huge family. And that clicked. It's like, oh, that's why he's so stingy with everything, right? And so now when we meet and plan these meetings to have, different events or engagements, or even just to show up in front of the board with an agenda, I can understand now where he's coming from. The other two were spaghetti and fried fish. I still haven't figured that one out. And grits with sugar. That's a northern thing, I guess. But I haven't figured that one out yet.
You gotta have the hot sauce and cheese. Forget the sugar.
That requires me to do more, fellowship and engagement, I guess. But these things will help us to recognize any ethical dilemmas, I believe, will come up regarding these particular meetings. You will be able to identify different points of view, gather different resources for assistance. Those resources could be, through those engagements, learning from their perspective, could be from friends, from families. Guys, it could be from doing something just as simple as this, a brief conversation or seminar or training or presentation on ethical dilemmas, right? But at the end of the day, have a plan. When we come for a meeting, have a plan. What is the overall goal that we're trying to achieve? And let's focus on that, right? Many times you're going to have distractions. We'll get off focus for a second, but we'll come right back in, right? But have a plan. And don't be that person, okay? What person? When we are in these particular environments, don't be the person that goes off on the clients or coworkers or your staff. They say one wrong thing, did not tell you to do X, Y, and Z. Don't be that person, okay? Don't be untruthful about your skill set. Again, if you can't do it, it's okay. Just admit that you can't do it. I promise you, someone out there has the ability to do so. We just have to take the extra initiative to find that particular person or that resource. Don't be the person that's always late. It kind of jumped the gun when I was talking about one of my dear friends. Not signing off on documents in a timely manner. This goes back to, I guess I could still use the email analogy that we discussed earlier on in the presentation. You don't want the other party coming back at you asking, did you sign this document yet? Have you reviewed this document yet? Did you go over this contract? Did you go over the meeting? Did you go over the agenda yet? You want to be prepared. You want to be that person that is responding timely, okay? It sends a huge message. It's very professional, and it almost guarantees you future engagements, right? Then I thought about putting this one in, paying someone under the table, okay? Let's say we have an issue, and man, to get over this issue, can I just give you, $50 just to shut up so we can continue on with this meeting or with this event, okay? Under the table, for one, has ethical consequences, right? It has legal consequences depending on the actual event. But I put that down because I am dealing with something right now with work for a case rather, where someone was paid under the table and the other person found out and they were doing the exact same work. So it's like, why did you pay this person extra? And I'm getting paid the same, we're both getting paid the same, but you gave them extra. What do you think that person's number one concern was? It wasn't the fact that, this person got paid. It was the fact that I didn't get, any incentive for doing the same thing, right? Do not put yourself in that situation, okay? Not familiarizing yourself with a client or even your own code of ethics. If your business doesn't have the code of ethics, I would challenge you to have your own code of ethics. I mean, literally have your own list of things that you do stand for and things that you will not stand for, things that are okay with you, things that are unacceptable, right? This allows you to learn more about yourself, but also how to approach different areas or different people when it comes to strategizing. And then not addressing the unethical behavior of others. There's an old saying, and it's not that old, but basically, if you see something, say something, okay? If someone's doing something unethical, pull them to the side and address it if you're in the managerial supervisor position that allows you to do that. If not, then again, follow your S&Ps, report it, and go about it the way the company or the organization forces you to. If it is a friend doing something unethical, I don't care if it's work related or not. It could be in freaking Publix. If they're doing something unethical, you would not be a friend to that person if you didn't pull them to the side and friendly check them on their unprofessional, unethical conduct. Because again, every day is a job interview, right? So I would challenge you all to do something that I force myself to do just about every day, and that is to unlearn what you know and learn what you thought you knew. What this does is it allows you to open your mind to different perspectives, to different understanding, right? Just because, again, in my mind, I can get to 4 with 4 ones. Well, someone else can get to 4 by, subtracting, 6 from 10, right? You still get to 4, but there are different ways to get to a common goal. And so whatever I think I know, let's just make it a blank slate and invite these different perspectives and these other ideas into the bowl and figure out how we can come up with, you may come up with something, and I find out many a times I come up with something more grand when I invite other ideas and perspectives than I would have just by myself. Life is a system of constantly, that is constantly moving and changing. I say that because I don't want you all to have, and I may strike some nerves, and y'all can send me an email. I'll leave it in the link below. But I don't want you to have I love college football. I like NFL football. I don't want you to have the Nick Saban mindset where I am not accepting the new way of dealing with recruiting, or the new way of dealing with a certain situation, right? If you do have the Nick Saban mindset, I would encourage you to have the Nick Saban strength to know and to walk away, right? I'm stuck in my ways. I'm not changing. Everything else is, but I'm not going to change. I am me. So maybe it's my turn or my time to walk away. Don't be the curmudgeon or the stumbling block that prohibits, forward progress, because no one wins in that situation, right? We've talked about this earlier or throughout the various slides. There are consequences to not upholding your ethical values or doing something unethical when it comes to working with others, right? Every day is a job interview, so just handle yourself and conduct yourself accordingly. I think I've taken a good amount of your time. I tried to be as brief as I could. Again, this is something I could talk about for hours, but I wanted to kind of concise this, and so we can get some particular nuggets, something to think on, And I appreciate your time. Thank you all for having me. And below is my work email at Carr Allison. And if there's a personal question, a personal matter, there's my Gmail account. And so email me if you have any thoughts, concerns, and I'll get to you when I can. Thanks again for having me.
Can we
Anything?
open the floor to questions?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I would love to, first off, thank you so much for being here and
you.
a very insightful presentation. Before we began, and in the last couple of weeks, I did send some learning objectives to everyone of what I hoped this session would entail. And to my understanding, it's like you covered absolutely everything. What I said was the three, and Dr. Patty Ball Thomas helped me write these learning objectives. But by the end of the
There's an
session,
echo.
should be
Somebody's got to turn something off.
integrity and ethics. Identify ethical dilemmas and apply theoretical approaches in meeting planning. And then describe methods of solving ethical challenges. And you hit all of those.
Okay.
Right? I would love to open the floor up to anyone who has any questions before we release our, yeah, and thank you for turning your cameras on. And I would like to, yes, Colleen, if you would unmute yourself, turn your camera on if you're able, and introduce yourself to everyone. We would love to hear from you too. And you may have a question as well for the speaker. And before you begin, hang on, I'm going to get a group photo here. I'm getting you two gentlemen who were in the room too. All right, ready? That's awesome. 1, 2, 3. One more. Gotcha. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Colleen Flagey, and I'm with the Central Florida Satellite Chapter. So it's really great to have this partnership with you all. I appreciate it. Mr. Edwards, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it too. And I did have a question for you. For those planners in the room or suppliers as well, who might be in a position where something is questionable and our internal Jiminy Cricket and radars are going off and we know we're either in a situation where we need to be paying attention and hypersensitive, what recommendations would you give to a planner or supplier on how to document properly something that may be questionable, but it also might not be, but it's good to document? What does that look like for someone who hasn't gone through the legal jargon of law school or has experienced court cases? Do we email memos to ourselves? Do we timestamp it via emails? Do we note it in Word, keep a file at home? What would you recommend?
So great question, by the way. You kind of.
Oh, you're muted, and I think you're coming through somebody else's microphone.
Can you hear me now? All right. Is there a way to turn her up so I can hear?
You turn yourself up. Turn her up there.
I did.
Okay. Go ahead. All
right, we'll see how that works. You kind of hit the nail on the head when you were talking about emailing, writing down some notes. I prefer digital because it's easier to forensically see when the note was made, right? There is a lot of gray area when it comes to what is ethical and what isn't, because again, my right way of doing things may not be your right way of doing things, right? And so that's why we should familiarize ourselves with our own S&Ps and codes of conduct and ethics. But what I would recommend is, yes, write it down, have a trail, right? And discuss it with somebody. Now, there are certain things that, you know, we are required by law to report. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. But on those gray areas, there's nothing, there's no harm in getting an electronic, memorandum or just a note. On this particular day, this is what happened. This is what I observed. This is what what was spoken. This is what was said, X, Y, and Z. If there is a direct chain of command, again, for your S&Ps, but at least you have a documentation of the issue or the concern, for CYA purposes on your behalf, right? Mm-hmm. It's not, you don't want to ever have this situation and it appears that you just turned your nose or turned the other way and ignored it. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Great question, by the way. There are a lot of gray areas.
Thank you for that excellent question. We really are happy that you're with us. You're part of our chapter now. And does anyone have any questions for Colleen or for our speaker before we sign off? I'd love to hear any other questions.
I think I have one more, if
Okay.
that's okay. And this just actually came up couple years ago, but with the SGMP Central Florida chapter at the time, where we had posted, and this was really stressful, I'm sure minor in the grand scheme of legal things, but we had posted a speaker who had presented, and we had recorded and posted their talk, and they had taken pictures from the internet that were not approved, or they, just took pictures, random pictures, and put in their presentation. Luckily, we were protected because we never charged people for that presentation, or we weren't charging afterwards. But I don't know, they called it an internet mole, found these photos that were illegally posted and came after us, threatening SGMP Central Florida chapter with, we're gonna take this money if you don't pay these fees, and you're doing XYZ illegal. So what we did was we just took it down off the internet. But do you have any words of advice for how we can be mindful of other things that are new and techie, and maybe the presenter, us as a chapter or us as a guest doesn't know if they've received approval on pictures or video clips, and if we get confronted with some kind of electronic mole system that's searching for thousands and thousands of pages on finding them, when they find them, they target you. How do we handle that?
Yeah. So.
Or prevent it?
Oh, we're good. You got me? All right.
Yeah,
So basically, it almost reminds me of like if someone sees something on Pinterest and they'll just snip it and add it to something, right? I find it to be better to do one of two things: either have your references, right, or just contact that person, let them know that you value their content and you wanted to use it or share it within a particular presentation, right? In this particular situation, we're not talking about writing material where you can reference and say, I researched this and I saw X, Y, and Z. We're talking about actually taking a picture and using it without someone's permission, right? So how do I want to address this? There are many ways to approach it, but basically you want to, like you said, not charge. There is no benefit coming from it, so there's nothing from that regard. But you want to make sure that whoever is presenting understand the importance of plagiarism, and understand the importance of taking someone proprietary rights and their information. I would suggest that there is some type of standard that is sent out to presenters saying, hey, thank you for, doing this X, Y, and Z. We just want to ensure that your material is genuine, it is authentic, and or you have permissions, requests, and proper, references regarding the material that you used.
Thank
That's-
you.
That's perfect.
That was
Now,
a great question.
I'd like to respond to that also, because I know that a lot of people now are doing the same thing with music. But people are saying when they put something up, I do not own the rights to the music that's being played.
Absolutely.
So if you are uploading a presentation from someone, you can put there that this chapter does not own any of the rights of this presentation that has been uploaded. Some kind of clause like that could be a generic clause that you could use to protect yourself. Mr. Attorney, you said absolutely. So I'm assuming that that's a good statement to make.
May I address that?
Yes.
Okay, so it is a good statement. However, it does not give you protection because it's still a copyright infringement. And to the point that you're not getting paid, that actually still is a copyright infringement. So there are some trolls out there and that Colleen alluded to. And I'll tell you, my dad is, he got targeted by one. He's on the NASA Speakers Bureau, and he used this photo of a space shuttle in one of his presentations, which, by the way, he's not paid for. But I had a blog on his website, and it, of course, crawls, these bots crawl and they find this image, and they sent him a bill. And it was very convincing. And then they sent it to the next level and they threatened him. And I researched and I said, this, it is legit. However, you know, so far, anyone who is not paid has not been held right. And so there were people paying, they'll pay. And truth is, you may have to pay, you may be taken to court, even if you didn't get paid, even if, so copyright violations of intellectual property are not okay, regardless of the scenario, regardless of the statement. So ultimately what I did is much like what you did, Colleen, I pulled the content down and we just waited it out, and he continued to get another letter, and finally they gave up and we never heard anything else. Like, shoo, okay. So, but truly, it is, his image was something that has been used time and time and time again, like of the space shuttle. So, but it didn't matter. It was copyright infringement. So, yeah. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
One, two, can you hear me? Okay. In the music industry, I've heard the term of that you can use at least, what is it, 4 to 8 bars without, no, I'm just throwing it out there. I know it has its challenges that one can use without copyright infringing or infringing on someone's right when it comes to the use of music or a loop, if you will. Can you address that for musicians that may be out there somewhere?
Attorney Edwards, we can't hear you. You're still on mute.
I promise you, I'm gonna get this right one day. All right. I was saying this is where I'm going to practice what I preach. That is outside my realm of practice. But this is becoming an issue because you have different events, and I'll just use church for an example. You know, did you have permission to play and present my song and to publicize it? You know, these are issues that are coming up, but from an entertainment law standpoint, I don't have the answer for that.
Okay.
All right, it's interesting because the people with the biggest technological challenge, we're actually all in the same room live, even though we're connected by Zoom, and it's because we're having to negotiate turning the sound up, turning the mics down so that we're not echoing. So thank you all for bearing with us on the technological challenges that we had tonight. But I love, you know, the whole discussion about music and everything, because truly it is protected and we have to be very, very careful. And so when in doubt, pay a fee, ask permission. Go ahead, unmute yourself.
85% of the time, if you just contact the person and ask for permission, it typically goes without any issue. Oh, absolutely. I would love for you to use my information. I mean, my music. I would love for you to use this photo. I would love, you know, et cetera. But I found it to be more practical just to reach out to that person, ask for their permission, or be sure you just have documentation that you cited as a reference, right?
Well, that being said, you can't just cite a reference and use their content. I love the idea of contacting the person. And I personally have been contacted for my content And I always give permission, as long as they're not making a profit from it, like, you know, people in universities, and I always give permission for people to use my content. But if you borrow content, now, if you cite a source, that's one thing to have a reference, but if you borrow content, citing a source is not enough. So you really do need to be careful. So yes, unmute.
I found it interesting as a photographer. I've gone down to the city of Tallahassee and I've seen some of the little flags that they have pictures of professors at Florida State or FAMU. I saw a picture that a photograph that I had taken, and no one has ever come to me for that. And so I may not sue them, but I thought about that. I wanted to question who gave them permission to utilize the photo that is now widely used in the city of Tallahassee, a photo that I've taken that is used in the College of Pharmacy often. But because it may have, someone have used it and it has been on the internet somehow, you know how we pass photos, and once it's hit the internet, then people pull it and use it. But I thought that was interesting that the city of Tallahassee is using that photo without permissions.
May I address that? Okay, so my question to you is, were you employed by the university at the time?
Yes.
And did you take that photo in your role in the university?
I may have taken that photo, yes.
Therefore, it is not your intellectual property.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so most likely, because I've worked in multiple universities, and I know several of you have too, it is actually not your intellectual property, it's the universities, and therefore it's quite likely the city and FAMU had an agreement where, yes, we would love for you to have because it's free publicity for Florida A&M University, right? And so I'm sure they said, absolutely use it.
Yeah, even if
So-
I just took the photo because, I mean, I worked there, I took the photo because. I was
Exactly.
there.
Right. What I'm saying is, if you had been a paid photographer on a weekend and it was a gig outside of the university hours and everything else, it might have a different application. But truly, all of us who've worked for universities know that what we do for universities pretty much is we give them our intellectual property. So, yeah, okay. And so I would just be honored that they're using your photo.
I am.
All right. All right. Well, listen, we are wrapping up here. Any final thoughts or questions? This has been an insightful presentation. Let's please give a round of applause for our speaker tonight. Yes. And our April session will be hosted by Dr. Patty Ball Thomas, who will have a virtual link for everyone that I'll put on the website. We welcome our satellite chapter. We're so glad you're here. We hope to see other members here soon. I will be out of the country for the April meeting, but please invite us to anything that you have as well. I know you're all virtual. We do every other month virtual and every other month hybrid. So we'll continue to always have that option. But thank you for being here. And if nobody has any final thoughts or questions, I appreciate your time.
I just want to say thank you to our speaker.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.